Breaking news today, ladies and gentlemen. Earth's magnetic warning. We're also going to look at the latest data about the Megathrust quake. Oh, yeah, buckle up for that one. And so many news articles, and I know your time is very valuable, so let's just jump right in. The first article that I wanted to share with you is from Live Science, and it's titled, Key Atlantic Current Could Collapse Soon, Impacting the Entire World for Centuries to Come. Leading climate scientists warn. Now, 44 of the world's leading climate scientists have called on Nordic policymakers to address the potentially imminent and devastating collapse of the key Atlantic Ocean currents. There was an open letter published Monday, October 21st. The University of Pennsylvania climatologist Michael Mann and other eminent scientists say the risks of weakening ocean circulation in the Atlantic have been greatly underestimated and warrant urgent action. Halo, real quick, there's a revolution happening right now above our heads. It's about to make silver more precious than ever. The sun's power is taking over the world. It's growing so fast, it'll be the biggest source of electricity by the 2030s. Solar. Oh yeah, here's the kicker. Every single solar panel needs silver to work. We're talking about a silver paste web in every panel, turning sunlight into power. Smart investors are already making their move, and that's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. If you go to leapprojectgold.com, Noble Gold with the silver IRA, you can surf this incredible wave of growth. It doesn't matter who sits in the White House or what Wall Street does. Oh yeah, solar power is unstoppable, and silver is the secret weapon. As the world goes green, your retirement could see the silver lining. Don't let this opportunity slip through your fingers in 2024. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com or leapprojectgold.com. Get the free ebooks, How to Get Out of the Rat Race, countless 5-star reviews, A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Noble Gold is the gold company that I trust. And if you qualify, this is super cool, you'll be gifted 10 ounces of solid silver. You could go with this 10-ounce solid silver American flag bar or 10 1-ounce silver Trump rounds. Call up Noble Gold Investments today, 1-877-646-5347. And let's get back to the podcast. The currents in question are those forming the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation. That's a giant ocean conveyor belt that includes the Gulf Stream and transports vital heat to the Northern Hemisphere. Researchers show the AMOC is slowing down, and it could also soon reach a tipping point, which is due to global warming, throwing Earth's climate into chaos. Such an ocean circulation change would have devastating and irreversible impacts, especially for Nordic countries, but also for other parts of the world. The scientists wrote in the letter that Nordic countries include Denmark, Iceland, Norway, Finland, and Sweden. An AMOC collapse would lead to major cooling, extreme weather in Nordic countries, and this is according to the letter. It would also enlarge and deepen a strange cold blob. It is already developed over the eastern North Atlantic, which is due to the slowdown of heat-carrying currents. Collapsing ocean currents are also likely to precipitate climate impacts across the Northern Hemisphere, threatening agriculture in northwestern Europe. And this is also according to the letter. Other regions would feel the effects, scientists said. Should the AMOC grind to a halt, it would trigger a southward shift in tropical monsoon systems with catastrophic consequences for agriculture and ecosystems. Hurricane Milton, estimated to have spawned over 40, I think 41 is the latest number, tornadoes. So not only hurricanes, but tornadoes. I mean, the weather's pissed. Halted ocean currents could also further heighten sea levels along the American Atlantic coast and send marine ecosystems, as well as fisheries, into a state of upheaval. Without urgent climate action, the AMOC could collapse in the next few decades, although there's huge uncertainty in predicting the timescales, and this is all according to the latest report. Now, the latest report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change states that there is medium confidence that the Atlantic Meridional Overturning circulation will not collapse abruptly before 2100, but the scientists say this is an underestimate. If that wasn't doomy enough for you, how about this one? SciTech Daily, the West Coast is at risk. New megathrust fault research indicates that the next big earthquake could be imminent. Large-scale earthquakes and tsunamis have historically affected the western regions of the US as well as Canada, and they're likely to do so in the future. Off the southern coasts of British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, and Northern California, a 600-mile long strip exists where the Pacific Ocean floor gradually subducts eastward beneath North America. This area, called the Cascadia subduction zone, hosts a megathrust fault, a place where tectonic plates move against each other in a highly dangerous way, and the plates can periodically lock and build stress over wide areas, eventually to be released when they finally lurch against each other. Now, the result, the world's greatest earthquakes, shaking both seabed and land, generating tsunamis 100 feet or higher. Such a fault off Japan caused the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster. Similar zones exist off Alaska, Chile, and New Zealand, among other places. At Cascadia, big quakes are believed to come roughly every 500 years or so, give or take a few hundred years. The last occurred in 1700. Research advancements in understanding seismic activity. So scientists have long been working to understand the Cascadia subduction zone's subterranean structures and mechanics. A newly published study promises to greatly advance this effort. A research vessel towing an array of the latest geophysical instruments along almost the entire zone has produced the first comprehensive survey of the many complex structures beneath the seafloor. These include the geometry of the downgoing ocean plate and overlying sediments and makeup of the overriding North American plate. The study was recently published in the journal Science Advances. The new insights into fault segmentation and tsunami risks. One key finding, the megathrust fault zone, is not just one continuous structure. It's divided into at least 4 segments, each potentially somewhat insulated against the movements of the others. Scientists have long debated whether past events, including the 1700 quake, ruptured the entire zone or just part of it. A key question, because the longer the rupture, the bigger the quake, and the data shows that segments are divided by buried features, which include big faults where opposing sides slide against each other perpendicular to the shore. This might help buffer against movement on one segment translating to the next. We can't say that this definitely means only single segments will rupture or that definitely the whole thing will go at once, said Harold Tobin, a geophysicist at the University of Washington and co-author of the study. But this does upgrade evidence that there are segmented ruptures. The researchers were zoning in on a segment in particular, which runs from southern Vancouver Island alongside Washington State, more or less ending at the Oregon border. And the subterranean topography of other segments is relatively rough, with oceanic features like faults and subducted seamounts rubbing up against the upper plate, features that might erode the upper plate and limit how far any quake may propagate within the segment, thus limiting the quake size. In contrast, the Vancouver-Washington segment is quite smooth. This means that it may be more likely to rupture along its entire length at once, making it potentially the most dangerous section. Ah, lovely. So that's where the big cities are, by potentially the most dangerous sections right along the coast. And then by the volcano, of course. I mean, because you got to have population centers by the most dangerous areas, geographically speaking. Just joking. But that's okay, because boom, look at it. Will you just look at it? Oh, yeah. This was a fireball over Lake Erie, which some people thought was kind of eerie. Huge fireball. And this is actually an image from the American Meteor Society. A huge fireball meteor shot across the sky above Lake Erie just after sunset, the 21st of Monday. Videos show witnesses in 10 different states, from Michigan all the way to North Carolina, reported spotting the blaze meteor around 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And so far, the American Meteor Society has received 534 reports of the fiery space rock. Experts estimated the meteor's trajectory and found that it's likely just offshore from Erie, Pennsylvania. The fireball occurred at an altitude of about 50 miles, meaning it was visible across several U.S. states and in Canada, EarthSky reported. This fireball is one of the largest documented in recent months, according to the website. Brad Haig and Ryan Connor, among other witnesses, captured some amazing footage of this fireball. So I'll leave the link to the video description box for that. Its estimated trajectory mapped by the AMS shows it covered a distance of roughly 60 miles above Lake Erie, the fourth largest by surface area of North America's 5 Great Lakes. It was exceptionally bright. Recently, there was a fireball over New York City, seen by a few dozen people, heard by hundreds due to a loud boom that resounded as far as New Jersey. And the meteor likely created the boom as it crashed through Earth's atmosphere, experts say. A lot of signs in the heavens. So, to the moon. And you know what else is to the moon? Silver. Oh, yeah. Silver's scarcity factor is helping it catch up to gold's record run. Check this out. This is from Market Watch. And not only is silver going to be used in industry, like with solar panels, and there's a huge list, but also military. The military and the amount of silver that they're going to be using might surpass other industries by a substantial amount. I just read an article on that the other day, but this article goes on to say silver prices may top $40 an ounce before the year's end. Hello. Sounds good to me. Now, obviously, there's never any guarantees, but while gold prices have repeatedly set fresh record highs this year, silver has been rallying as well, with one analyst predicting the prices for the precious and industrial metal will reach $40 an ounce or more before the end of the year as supplies continue to come short on demand. As gold tears higher to new records, which it just hit again, the buying pressures on silver grows, as does the fourth year of supply deficits, he told MarketWatch. The Silver Institute forecast 2024 total global silver supply at nearly 1.004 billion ounces, compared with the total demand of 1.219 billion ounces, following supply deficits in 2021, 2022, and 2023. On Monday, the December contract for silver futures climbed 66.1 cents, or 2%, to 33.895 an ounce on COMEX. Silver futures have outperformed gold this year. So, yeah, check this out. Silver's making a major move now. It's going to get noticed by more investors and speculators, said Spina. This means to me that the next move higher in silver prices will be aggressive, with $40 plus an ounce on the horizon, likely before year's end. Silver tides unite. So this is, like, I haven't eaten at McDonald's in years, but I saw this and I actually sent it out to a couple of people because I know they do eat McDonald's, and it's like, anyway, you might want to read this from cdc.gov. E. coli outbreak linked to McDonald's quarter pounders. New as of 10/23. In the contaminated food section, CDC added a list of states where McDonald's removed slivered onions and beef patties. States include Colorado, Kansas, Utah, Wyoming, and portions of Idaho, Iowa, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. In the situation summary, the CDC, the FDA, the USDA, and the FSIS, and public health officials in multiple states are investigating an outbreak of E. coli infections. Most people in this outbreak are reporting eating the quarter pounder hamburger at McDonald's before becoming sick. It is not yet known which specific food ingredient is contaminated. McDonald's is collaborating with investigation partners to determine what food ingredient in the quarter pounders is making people sick. McDonald's stopped using fresh slivered onions in quarter pound beef patties in several states, while the investigation is ongoing to identify the ingredient causing illness. McDonald's quarter pounder hamburgers are making people sick, with most illnesses in Colorado and Nebraska. According to the article, it says McDonald's has stopped using fresh slivered onions in quarter pound beef patties in several states to protect their customers while a source of illness is confirmed. Call your healthcare provider if you have severe E. coli symptoms. Then it goes on to list the symptoms of E. coli. So I'll leave the link in the video description box, but The dirty clown. Be warned, ladies and gentlemen. Like, I'm not even going to get into it. Okay, let's go to the next article. The Earth's changing irregular magnetic field is causing headaches for polar navigation, phys.org. The Earth's liquid molten outer core, composed mostly of iron and nickel, they say, exerts an electromagnetic field extending from the north and south poles that protects the planet from harmful solar particle radiation. Fluctuations in the strength of Earth's magnetic field caused by daily changes in solar wind structure and intermittent solar storms can impact the use of geomagnetic field models, which are essential for navigation in satellites, planes, ships, and cars. Well, birds and animals. Magnetic field models differ based on the location of data collection, either on or near the Earth's surface or low Earth orbiting satellites. Past research has attributed model differences to space weather activity levels, but a recent analysis of 6 years of Earth and satellite magnetic field models found model discrepancies are also driven by modeling errors rather than geophysical phenomena alone. The results published in the Journal of Geophysical Research, Space Physics, University of Michigan research team assessed differences between observations from the Swarm mission's low Earth orbit satellites and a Earth magnetic field model, 13th generation of the International Geomagnetic Reference Field, or IGRF-13. They focused on differences during low to moderate geomagnetic conditions, encompasses 98.1% of the time between the years 2014 and 2020. So the satellites observed and collected data at different locations above Earth, which are sensitive to magnetic field fluctuations, whereas Earth magnetic field models use observations to estimate the Earth's internal magnetic field without accounting for the influence of solar storms. Internal magnetic field models, like the IGRF-13, are used to track changes in the Earth's magnetic poles, like the North Pole's shift of about 45 kilometers north-northwest each year. Now, understanding these differences are important for the operations of these satellites when using the IGRF-13 as a reference and for research on the physics of the Earth's magnetosphere, ionosphere, and thermosphere. So the model uncertainty was the highest in the north and south polar regions, and a statistical analysis revealed that the asymmetry between the north and south polar regions was a major factor driving the differences in the model. We often assume a nearly symmetrical magnetic field between the northern and southern polar regions, but they are actually very different, said Yinying Shi, an assistant research scientist at the University of Michigan Climate and Space Science and Engineering and corresponding author on the study. Understanding that what has been attributed to geophysical disturbances is really due to the asymmetry of the Earth's magnetic field, it will help us better create geomagnetic field models as well as help with satellite and aviation navigation. Professor of Climate and Space Sciences and Engineering at UM and an author of the study. Another issue causing the navigation community concern is that the polar magnetic field has been changing rapidly over the past decade or so, and this further adds complexity to creating accurate magnetic field models, said Moldwin. Oh, well, there you go. Now, do you remember just like a little over a year ago, article comes out, 10 billion crabs suddenly vanished from the Bering Sea. Now we know why. And they're talking about how the actual water warmed. And I mean, it's kind of spooky. A lot of stuff about the currents, the magnetic fields, the actual core itself. The article from CNN, which picked up a science paper describing how the core has slowed down so much it's potentially reversed. And people are like, well, Rex, how do they know that? Well, they're using seismic data and they don't know for sure, but they're using the data that they have from technology and earthquakes. And they're seeing that there's probably a core inside of the core even. And it's like some type of blob. And it's the Earth is definitely acting very strange. And the weather is extreme, like either extreme heat, extreme floods, hurricanes, tornadoes. It doesn't seem to be its normal self, or at least the way it was back in the 80s and 90s. Seemed to be quite a bit different then. And so you've got icebergs that are melting at alarming, the seas are warming, the magnetic fields are acting bizarre, they're moving strange. I mean, the whole thing is just odd. The sun is right now been launching X flares. So the question is, like, is this going to be an ongoing thing, or is this just a little blip in reality? But I do want to share some good news. Like, if you've seen Deadliest Catch, well, it's coming back. 2024, red king crab reopens. So to kick off the milestone season, the red king crab fishery has finally reopened in Alaska, igniting the first derby-style race in decades. Forced to obtain their crab hauls in a highly competitive time frame, veteran and rookie captains are thrust into cutthroat rivalries that will push each crabber to their limit. So I guess crabs are coming back. Now, this is next article from SciTech Daily. Startling discovery. Scientists find microplastics in infant organs at birth. A Rutgers health study has discovered aerosolized plastics in neonatal tissue following in utero exposure. Plastic pollution, including tiny particles smaller than a grain of sand, have become ubiquitous, affecting even newborn rodents, according to a Rutgers health study published in the journal Science of the Total Environment. Researchers have long understood that micro and nanoplastic particles, which enter the environment through oxidation and natural degradation of consumer products, are easily deposited into the human body through inhaling, absorption, and diet. Experts also understand that these pollutants can cross the placental barrier and deposit in fetal tissues. What's been unclear is whether these particles remained in tissue long after birth. The Rutgers health researchers found that they do, at least in rats. They're data that could have implications for human health. Nobody wants plastic in their liver, said Phoebe A. Stapleton, an associate professor of pharmacology and toxicology at the Rutgers Ernest Mario School of Pharmacy, Mario, and the study's senior author. Now that we have known it's there, as well as in other organs, the next step is to understand why and what that means. Research findings in rodents. To assess the persistence of micro and nanoplastic particles in neonatal tissue following maternal exposure, Stapleton and colleagues exposed 6 rats to aerosolized food-grade plastic powder for 10 days during pregnancy. 2 weeks after birth, 2 newborn rats, 1 male, 1 female, were tested for micro and nanoplastic exposure. In both cases, the same type of plastic that the mothers inhaled during the pregnancy were found in the offspring's lung, liver, kidney, heart, and brain tissue. No plastics were found in a control group. Stapleton said the findings are one more piece of evidence illustrating the potential dangers of micro and nanoplastics in the environment. Oh, well, gee, like, this isn't really new. I mean, I'm looking, I typed in just microplastics at birth under a Google search, and AI comes up with a bunch of information. And you can go all the way back to, here's an article from December 22nd, 2020, The Guardian, microplastics revealed in the placentas of unborn babies. TheGuardian.com. This article is over 3 years old. And we're still just talking about it. Like, do something. Why don't they do something about it? I mean, the laws and the regulations and the bills and the politicians, you know, they care so much about people's health, right? Allegedly. So why don't they do something about it? Like, there's so many alternatives that you could use besides plastic. So I'm just like, this is when you realize there's a lot of talk and not a lot of walk. But that's okay, because lab-grown human brain cells drive virtual butterfly in simulation. Yeah. Once again, sci-fi becoming sci-reality. Researchers affiliated with the neuroscience platform Final Spark devised a 3D simulation depicting a butterfly, which is directed by human brain cells. Oh, cool. It represents a significant step towards the realization of concepts previously confined to science fiction, like The Matrix and opens up new avenues for research in cognitive preservation and mind uploading, said software developer Daniel Berger in a summary of the project and in an associated video. So cool. Final Spark, based out of Switzerland, offers its neural platform so researchers interested in biocomputing can write code that interacts with brain organoids, which I predicted 12 years ago. Oh, yeah. So cool. You can read these blogs that I posted 12 years ago about mini brains that are going to be like basically stuff like this. I didn't say that they were going to control virtual butterflies, but there's some stuff they're going to do even crazier than this, folks. So, brain organoids the size of a pea derived from induced pluripotent stem cells. Did I say that right? According to Berger, these cells are maintained in incubators at 37 degrees Celsius, more cell sauna than the matrix. While the cells lack the complexity of the human brain, they do respond to stimuli through a multi-electrode array that supports two-way electrical communication. So they communicate. As a platform demonstration, Berger and colleagues created a virtual world with a butterfly model. The brain organoids watch for human input signals. In this case, take the form of clicks on the virtual world scene. The associated Python software computes whether the click whether the click event occurred within the butterfly's field of view. Then the brain neurons respond to the stimuli by telling the butterfly model to fly towards the click event location or not. And actually, I'll leave a link to the register.com because it shows you what the code looks like specifically that they put in to communicate with the organoid, which communicates with the machine. It's crucial to emphasize that while these movement functions are implemented in software, the decision to use one or the other is driven by the brain organoid's response to stimulation, said Berger. Well, that's freaking cool. So it's like, nah, I'm not in the mood today. Okay, yeah, let's do it. Biological neural networks, Berger argues, have potential advantages that include significantly lower energy consumption, he notes. Growing human brain organoids for computer processing power to use less energy. Brilliant. What could possibly go wrong? Truly higher cognitive and adaptive behaviors such as creativity, true zero-shot learning capabilities, superior pattern recognition and generalization, better handling of ambiguity and noise, and the potential for self-repair and neuroplasticity. Yeah, with liquid metal robots. That sounds amazing. Listen to this. A point of comparison. Final Spark cites the Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Frontier supercomputer, which operates at 21 megawatts or 8 to 30 megawatts by another measure. Berger, however, acknowledged that there's additional traditional computing infrastructure involved that needs to be considered. We currently compare CPU versus organoid processing directly, he told the Register. We still have energy consumption from supporting hardware like incubators and electrical stimulation systems. We don't yet have an exact one-on-one comparison of CPU versus organoid, including all supporting hardware. But this is something we're working on, quantifying in the near future. So the need for software is expected to continue. It may become less significant over time. Based on our current work, it appears that software interfaces will remain necessary when brain organoids interact with human-built systems like computers, he said, much like how we as biological intelligent beings use software to communicate. This intermediary layer will likely always be present. However, we anticipate the supporting software may become more streamlined in the future. They're going to start growing computers, like, makes you think about the ancient mythological stories that talk about how the gods made humans to do the work for them. Yeah, reminds me of that just a little bit. Berger sees applications for zero-shot learning capabilities for entirely novel scenarios, tasks demanding intuition, creativity, pattern generalization across a wide range of various tasks rather than optimized and narrow tasks. Like major tech companies with AI commitments are exploring nuclear power plants to keep AI models running, the utility of living neurons, which consume 1 million times less energy than current digital processors, becomes obvious, right? Build more nuclear reactors or grow more human brain organoids. Or both. Why not? Why stop there? Come on, Berger. This is crazy. The ethical implications are perhaps less clear, which is why Berger points out that these organoids lack the capacity for high-level consciousness and should be thought of more like plants than people. Plants are people too, you know. Well, not people, but plants' lives matter. They do. I've got one of my favorite plants is right upstairs, and water it, talk to it, tell it how amazing it is, give it sunlight. And I'm sure it talks back, just I can't hear it with my, Anyway, that's a whole other podcast. Let's get back to the podcast. Hey, Bob. This concept includes theoretical and practical methodologies for capturing and maintaining the structural and functional integrity of human cognitive processes beyond the limits set by biology, including aging, cognitive decline, and ultimately lifespan extension, he explained. Here's another thing. So check this out. Take your stem cells, print up your brain organoids, and now you have a computer and a living bio network linked to you. Like, talk about the ultimate agent, right? Mini-me, can you take care of my tasks today so I can go bike 50 miles and go out and play all day? Thanks. Do you mind? Anyway, pretty cool, but the implications are, oh yeah, very interesting. But speaking of implications, oh yeah, NASA's Hubble New Horizons team up for a simultaneous look at Uranus. Oh yeah, NASA's teaming up because they want to look at Uranus. They want to look at Uranus. So let's take a look at this real quick, shall we? NASA's Hubble Space Telescope and New Horizons spacecraft simultaneously set their sights on Uranus recently, allowing scientists to make a direct comparison of the planet from two very different viewpoints. Read all about it, science.nasa.gov. The results inform future plans to study like types of planets around other stars. Astronomers used Uranus as a proxy for similar planets beyond our solar system, known as exoplanets, comparing higher resolution images from Hubble to the more distant view from New Horizons. This combined perspective will help scientists learn more about what to expect while imaging planets around other stars with future telescopes. While we expected Uranus to appear differently in each filter of the observations, we found that Uranus was actually dimmer than predicted in the New Horizons data taken from a different viewpoint, said lead author Samantha Haisler of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Cambridge and New Horizons Science team collaborator. Well, if you want to look at Uranus, I'll leave the link in the video description box. Enjoy. Next article, some good news, which we predicted also, and you probably did too. Nature.com. Is there life on Jupiter's moon, Europa? NASA launches mission to find hints. Well, I mean, couldn't they find out if they're going to launch something there that has sensors, unless they're hiding? But they could probably, anyway, these articles, the way they're written, it's like, oh, let's write it as, anyway. The Europa Clipper spacecraft will use its various instruments to probe whether the icy ocean world is habitable. Want to go deep sea fishing out there? A SpaceX rocket lifted off from Cape Canaveral in Florida today, carrying with it NASA's U.S. $5 billion dream of finding hints of life on a distant moon. The mission, the most ambitious hunt for life beyond Earth since NASA began exploring Mars decades ago, will now voyage towards Jupiter to investigate a vast ocean buried under the icy crust of its moon Europa. In the coming weeks, the Europa Clipper craft will make crucial maneuvers into space, deploying radar antennas to prepare for studying the moon. We're watching through our fingers with excitement, says Kathleen Kraft, a planetary scientist at the Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory in Laurel, Maryland. Everything needs to go right. If it does, the spacecraft will reach Jupiter in 2030. 2030, huh? Interesting time. Did you see there's a plaque that they're sending out there that is pretty darn cool. I did a podcast on this about a year ago. So there's a specific plaque and that's depicted with certain verbiage and writings, etc., and data that they're sending out there. I thought it was pretty cool. But the timeline also interesting, 2030. So if it does reach Jupiter in 2030, it'll begin whizzing past Europa, making dozens of flybys, skimming above the moon's icy surface. It will aim to answer some of the most profound questions in astrobiology, whether or not Europa's oceans contains chemical nutrients and other energy sources capable of sustaining life. Or what if there's like fish out there or mermaids? That'd be kind of hot. Hot mermaids in Europa. Hello. Mission scientists have been careful to say that Clipper, named for the 19th century merchant ships that sailed Earth's oceans, is not hunting for life. Instead, its goal is to determine whether Europa has the ingredients for life. If the mission shows that Europa is habitable, that discovery would drastically expand the chances of finding life on icy worlds and other solar systems. Studying Europa tells us not to limit ourselves, says Lene Quick Henderson, a planetary scientist at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. So that's super cool. Looking forward to that. A lot of stuff on the horizon. Be prepared, not scared. Focus on the positive. Be excellent to each other. Look for the goodness in all things. Most of them. Maybe. And check us out on leakproject.com for exclusive interviews, as well as Patreon. We have tons of exclusive content and stuff you're only going to find on Patreon and leakproject.com. Also, some great results with the, I've been helping people get into podcasts and media. Some people are building up their media empires. They're getting into going out and like filming locations and turning their hobbies into podcasts. It's so cool. And if you want to get into that, send me an email, leakproject@gmail.com. You can also send me a text, 970-616-5677. So this one guy I met likes to go actually do tarot readings. And he's doing tarot readings, helping people out. And he's actually a reverend, and he was raised Baptist. So how cool is all that? And his name is Tarot with an Attitude. So you should check out some of his podcasts. He's a lot of fun. So anyway, folks, if you're interested, send me an email, send me a text, and be the change you want to see.